5:47 a.m. Sarah's phone lit up like a neon sign, its glow cutting through the dark. 9 a.m. Department meeting. Note: Wow Chung with new proposal. She squinted, rubbing her eyes, then reached for the bone china mug she'd bought last week for mornings that feel special. Its surface still bore the ghost of a dish soap stain, a tiny, stubborn reminder of her quest for perfection. The drive to work was a symphony of chaos. Her GPS screeched. Accident ahead, 3 kilometers, 20-min delay. Her thumb tapped the steering wheel, switching routes, only for another alert to blare. Right lane closed. Suggest U-turn? By the time she reached the office, her jaw ached, her reflection in the elevator mirror a stranger with furrowed brows. In the break room, Mark from accounting nodded at her coffee. Heard Chun move the budget meeting to this afternoon? He said, grinning. Sarah's smile froze. She'd stayed up till 1 a.m. tweaking her department presentation 8 times now. Those files sat untouched in her bag while she scrambled for budget notes. Lunch was a cold sandwich in the stairwell. Her phone died mid-scroll. Her mom's text glowed. Weekend home? Dad's arthritis is acting up. She stared at the screen, remembering last week's canceled dinner. Dad's hesitation before hanging up. Her stomach churned, but she tapped her inbox instead. Chun's new request. Disruptive creative brief by 2 p.m. At 6 p.m., Sarah sank onto a park bench, her bag heavy with unfinished work, unread messages, and that cold coffee. Wind lifted her hair, and she thought of Grandma's summer porch, cicadas droning, Grandma fanning her with a palm leaf. Little Sarah. Look at the clouds, they gather, scatter, but never cry over their shape. Back then, she'd laughed. Now she felt it, the tightness in her chest, the net of shoulds constricting her breath. That night, she opened her journal. Pages were filled with must, should, never. But at the bottom, she wrote, Today I let the coffee go cold. Maybe tomorrow I'll let something else go too. She closed the notebook, blew out the candle, and climbed into bed. The moon outside was bright, but she didn't chase its light. She let herself drift, soft and steady, like a leaf on a stream. Sarah's fingers traced the coffee stain in her journal. Letting go isn't surrender, she'd scribbled, quoting a Buddhist quote she'd found online. But what did that mean? She'd always equated control with safety until last week, when her perfect presentation had flopped because Chen had changed the goalposts. At the office, her desk was a war zone. Sticky notes, half-empty coffee cups, a stack of printouts labeled Final Draft again. Her coworker Lila, usually frazzled, paused by her door. You look tense, Lila said, softening. I started meditating. It's not about emptying your mind. It's about noticing the thoughts, then letting them pass. Sarah scoffed. Passivity, she thought. But that night, she tried it. Sat cross-legged, eyes closed, focusing on her breath. At first, her mind raced. Did I reply to Mark? What if the budget meeting bombs? But slowly, she noticed the rhythm of her inhales and exhales, the way her chest rose and fell like the tide. When a thought came, she didn't chase it. She just let it go, like a cloud in the sky. The next morning, she arrived at work 15 minutes late, not because of traffic, but because she'd stopped to buy Lila a latte. You're a gem, Lila said, sipping it. You know, my grandma used to say, the best plans are the ones you don't have to force. Sarah smiled. Force, she thought. Isn't that what I've been doing? That afternoon, Chun called her into his office. Your presentation was different, he said, leaning back. But it made us think. Why didn't you stick to the original plan? Sarah took a breath. Because life doesn't stick to plans, Mr. Chun. Sometimes the best ideas come when you stop trying to control the outcome. Chun stared, then laughed. You're right. Let's try this again, no rules, just ideas. As Sarah left his office, sunlight spilled through the window, dappling her desk. On it lay a sticky note, scribbled in Lila's handwriting. Be like water, not ice. She smiled. And for the first time in weeks, she didn't reach for her phone to check the clock. She just sat. And in that stillness, she felt something shift like a stone sinking into water, settling, finally, at peace. Emma's life had once been a spreadsheet. 6 a.m. yoga, 8 a.m. work, 6 p.m. gym, 8 p.m. dinner with Ryan. Every minute planned, every goal checked off. Until the day her company downsized, her gym closed, and Ryan walked out, saying, I need space. Now she sat on her couch, surrounded by boxes. Her dream apartment felt empty. Her perfect life felt like a lie. She scrolled through old photos. Herself at 25, grinning in a graduation cap. At 30, beaming at her promotion. At 35, arm in arm with Ryan. What's wrong with me? She whispered. Her phone buzzed her mom's message. Sweetheart, come home. Your dad's in the hospital. Emma froze. She'd canceled last month's visit, too busy manifesting her future. At the hospital, her dad smiled weakly. Don't worry, kiddo. I'm just here to teach you a lesson, he said, his voice hoarse. Life's not a checklist. It's a dance you don't lead, you follow. That night, Emma found her old journal. Page after page of I will, I should, I must. But at the bottom, her 16-year-old self had written, I want to be happy, not perfect. She called Sarah, her college friend who'd once ranted about control freaks. I'm lost, Emma said, tears in her voice. Sarah laughed. Welcome to the club. Last year I was you. Then I learned to let go. What does that even mean? Emma asked. It means, Sarah said, that sometimes the best thing you can do is stop trying so hard to control the music. Just dance. Emma started small. She began each morning with 5 minutes of breathing, in for 4 counts, out for 6. At first, her mind raced. Did I reply to that email? What if the garden fails? But slowly she learned to notice the thoughts, then let them pass. One afternoon, she joined Sarah at the community center's workshop, where they built towers from random office supplies. It's not perfect, Mark said, grinning, as their lopsided tower wobbled. But it's ours. Emma laughed. Ours, she thought. Not perfect. That weekend, she and her dad planted a new rose bush in the garden, wild, unruly, beautiful in its imperfection. It might not bloom this year, her dad said, but that's okay. Emma nodded. It's enough that it's here. As she watered the bush, a butterfly landed on her hand. She froze, afraid to move, afraid to break the moment. But the butterfly stayed, its wings fluttering gently, as if sharing a secret. This is enough. Later, her dad found her sitting by the rose bush, the butterfly still there. "You look peaceful," he said, leaning on his cane. Emma smiled. "I think I finally get what Grandma meant. Life isn't about making everything work. It's about letting it be, even the messy parts, even the uncertainty." Her dad nodded. "Your grandma used to say, the best moments are the ones you don't plan." He paused, then added, "Today, this is one of mine." That night, Emma sat by her window, the butterfly long gone, but the rose bushes set, lingering in the air. She thought of Sarah's words. Non-attachment isn't about letting go of love. It's about holding it lightly. She picked up her journal, but didn't write. Instead, she closed her eyes and listened to the wind. Sarah's community center was buzzing with a new group. Seniors from the local retirement home, many of whom had spent decades clinging to rigid routines. Mrs. Chun, 82, sat stiffly in the corner, her hands clasped like a vice. "I used to have a schedule for everything," she said, voice tremulous. 7 a.m. tea, 8 a.m. crossword, 9 a.m. call my granddaughter. Now I can't even remember what day it is. Sarah remembered her own grandmother's words. Life is a river, not a canal. She invited Mrs. Chun to join the mindful walks. She led a slow, silent stroll through the park, noticing sounds, smells, and the feel of the wind. On their first walk, Mrs. Chun resisted. "What's the point of wandering?" she grumbled. But halfway, a sparrow landed on her shoulder, chirping. She froze, then laughed a sound like wind chimes. "I haven't laughed this much in years," she said, eyes bright. That afternoon, Sarah taught the group about Wu Wei, effortless action, from Taoism, and Anatta, no self, from Buddhism. Control isn't about forcing, she explained. It's about aligning with the flow, like a boat that doesn't row upstream, but lets the current carry it. Mrs. Chung nodded slowly. "So, I don't need to fix my memory. I just need to be in the moment with whatever comes." The next week, she arrived at the walk with a photo album. "Look," she said, pointing to a picture of her husband. "He hated change. Always said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But when he got sick, I realized broke is just part of the river." Sarah smiled. Grief isn't about holding on, it's about letting the love keep flowing, even when the person is gone. As they walked back, Mrs. Chun plucked a dandelion clock and blew it. "Who knows where the seeds land?" she said, grinning. "But they'll grow somewhere. That's enough." Autumn arrived, painting the neighborhood in hues of amber and rust. Sarah sat on her porch, a mug of spiced chai in hand, watching leaves spiral down from the maple tree. Her dad was there too, pruning a rosebush with deliberate, slow strokes, no more frantic hurry, just the quiet rhythm of a man at peace. "Mind if I join you?" Mark called from the driveway, jogging over with a yoga mat slung over his shoulder. "Mrs. Patel said you're teaching a mindfulness tea circle at the community center. I figured I'd audit." Sarah grinned. "Audience of one? I'll make it worth your while." Mark plopped down on the porch swing beside her. "You know, ever since you changed," he said, grinning, "I've been noticing things. Like how the office doesn't fall apart when someone's late. Or how Chun actually smiles now instead of scowling at clocks." Sarah sipped her chai. "It's not me. It's just seeing the world differently. Like when Grandma pointed out the clouds." Mark nodded. "My yoga teacher says the same. Control is a story we tell ourselves, she says. The universe writes better plots when we stop dictating the lines. They sat in companionable silence, listening to the rustle of leaves. A sparrow landed on the windowsill, tilting its head as if considering them. Sarah thought of the day she'd first heard Buddha's teaching on anicca, how she'd scoffed, thinking impermanence sounded like a fancy word for nothing matters. Now she knew better. Impermanence meant everything mattered, every moment, every breath, because it would never come again. That afternoon, Sarah led her first community workshop. The room was packed. Parents, students, retirees, even a few skeptics who'd shown up to debunk mindfulness. She started with a simple exercise. Close your eyes. Breathe in for 4 counts, out for 6. Notice the sensation of your feet on the floor. That's it. 15 minutes later, she opened her eyes to see faces relaxed, some with tears, others smiling. An older woman raised her hand. I used to think meditation was about emptying my mind, she said. But all I could think about was my daughter's wedding next month and how I'm terrified of messing it up. Sarah smiled. What if instead of messing it up, you thought of it as creating it? With love, not a checklist? The woman blinked. That's a different way to look at it. Another attendee, a college student, spoke up. I've been so stressed about grades, I can't sleep. But when you said, let go of control, I tried. Not panicking about the next exam. Just studying and trusting I'd do my best. It actually worked. I slept 8 hours last night. Laughter rippled through the room. Sarah felt a warmth in her chest. This was why she'd started sharing her story. Not to fix anyone, but to show that it was possible to live softly, even amid chaos. After the workshop, Mrs. Patel cornered her. You've got a gift, dear, she said, pressing a small clay pot into Sarah's hands. Inside was a sprouting mango seed. My husband planted this when we moved in 30 years ago. It's never borne fruit, but he kept watering it anyway. Some things take time, he'd say. Now, well, look at it. Sarah stared at the seedling, its tender green shoot pushing through the soil. Some things take time. She thought of her own journey months of fumbling, of letting go, of learning to trust. It hadn't been quick, but it had been real. That evening, she called her mom. How's the garden? She asked. Thriving, her mom said. Your dad's turned into a regular green thumb. He even started a chaos garden, weeds and all. Says it's more honest than the perfectly pruned one we used to have. Sarah laughed. Tell him I said hi. And maybe send a photo of the weeds? Her mom chuckled. Will do. Oh, and Sarah? Your dad asked me to tell you. He's sorry he was such a control freak. He says he's learning to bend like the tomatoes. Sarah's eyes stung. Tell him I'm sorry too, for being so rigid, for not listening sooner. Honey, you're both learning, her mom said softly. That's what love is, growing together, even when you don't know where you're going. The next morning, Sarah woke to the sound of rain. She threw on a sweater and went outside, letting the cool droplets kiss her face. The maple tree stood tall, its leaves glowing like embers. A child's laugh echoed from the park, 2 little boys chasing a butterfly, their shoes muddy, their faces lit with pure delight. She thought of Buddha's teaching. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. Today she chose to think of the butterfly, the rain, the warmth of her mug, not the to-do list, not the past, not the future, just this. Later, as she walked to the community center for another workshop, she passed a street sign that read, "Live simply." She smiled. It wasn't about simplicity in the way she'd once thought tidy shelves, perfect plans. It was about simplicity of the heart, letting go of what didn't serve her, holding on to what did, and trusting that life would weave its magic in between. That night she wrote in her journal, "Wisdom isn't a destination. It's the quiet act of showing up, over and over, even when the path is unclear. And sometimes it's just letting the leaves fall." She closed the notebook, blew out the candle, and settled into bed. Outside, the rain had stopped, and the moon hung low, casting a silver glow over the garden. Somewhere a frog croaked and a cricket chirped. Sarah closed her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't reach for her phone, didn't check the clock, didn't plan the next day. She just was. And in that being, she found not an end, but a beginning.